Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference is brought to you by Snowline Gold.
Will this finally be the year for copper? I'm with Ivan Bebek. He is a self-described serial explorationist who co-founded Fury Gold Mines, Tier 1 Metals, and Coppernico Metals. Ivan, welcome back to Kitco.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know there's a lot to talk about with copper, but let's step back a bit. This macro environment, how's it shaping up and how's it looking for resources?
It's looking really good. You know, from a fundamental perspective, it's outstanding, but from a retail investing perspective, it's still dragging. There's a huge disconnect with the sentiment and the real shortages that are facing some of the base metals and the potentials in gold and various factors. So I feel highly opportunistic once again, but in time it'll change here and it'll be very, very positive to the upside.
There's been some nice transactions to kind of start the year in the base metal side. So I think of what happened with Kenorland, also with FPX, and also with Canada Nickel that was seeing some large investments too. So positive sign we can take.
Yeah, there's definitely an appetite growing. I'm on both sides of the border, Canada and the US, and I've heard and seen of a lot of people starting to look at the sector and starting to see these wins like this and these transactions happen is very healthy. But I'm an early investor because it's truly unpredictable. You really don't know when it's going to go, and I'd bet on being early involved in good things versus late, and that's how you catch it as an explorationist and an investor.
Copper was supposed to arrive, but it really didn't in 2023. So, we had all of the reports, I think it was over a year ago, was, copper's going to be the new oil and energy transition. But we seem to have a really tough time in 2023, just with, say, the EV slowdown, but also what was happening with the macro picture in China. How do copper fundamentals look to you right now? What's blaring headline for you, Ivan?
So glaring headline is a deficit in copper next year. We all saw Cobre Panama shut down, which does affect it, and to some extent. With that narrative, copper has held extremely well. I have to compliment it versus other metals that have come up and down in the lithium sector, uranium and whatnot. So I will say that, the resilience has to be complimented, but copper is a slow bull market. It's not quick. And it's a perpetual performer. It's the slowest moving bull market versus gold can spike and stay up for a few years. Copper will have a longer bull market when it comes. So I'm looking forward to that. The modernization, the economy, interest rates, everything has a role and an impact. And we're kind of in unprecedented times post-COVID, post-violent interest rate rises, which we haven't seen in decades. So I think it's a new landscape, and everyone's watching China. When is China going to come back online? Because that's 50% of the world's copper consumption, kind of a driver. Very confident about the renewed interest for climate change globally. Every government in the world is putting out initiatives that I don't think are realistic in terms of electric vehicles only by 2035 and so on. However, all of that points towards more copper, and the population obviously is growing. So I think the long-term fundamentals are extremely good. I'm looking at projects that would benefit in the next few years of being substantial performers, and I think we're well aligned with that. I'm not upset that copper hasn't performed yet, but I'm looking forward to a lag and when it can finally start performing, and I think that might happen at the end of this year going into next year.
I mentioned at the top some of the companies that you co-founded. You've been involved in Fury Gold Mines, Tier 1 Metals. You've had a long history in the space just with companies that you started. There is a copper thesis. There's a lot of people that are following the copper thesis right now. There's been a lot of juniors that are approaching with projects. When you were looking at this and then taking the copper opportunity, why did you settle on Coppernico? What worked for you?
Great. So Orin Resources was the parent company that we spun out, Fury Gold Mines, Tier 1 Silver, and Coppernico Metals. When we were running Orin, it was $3.20 a share, about a $300 million market cap. And the flagship at the time of that spinco was Sombrero, which is the main asset in Coppernico. One of the major copper or base metal mining companies in the world pulled me aside and said, look, we really like this project. If you could spin it out, we'd be interested to focus on copper directly versus the other assets. We looked at each opportunity. It made sense. Fundamentally, markets have been challenging since we've done that, but this one I chose based on my comfort. It offers scale. The first drill target is an analog to one of the largest mines in the world, Las Bambas, and it's well advertised through evidence we've collected on surface and subsurface that indicate this potential has good probability. Obviously, there's a lot of risk with that statement, but I've found a big gold mine with my partners in Ghana. I've sold Cayden to Agnico Eagle in the middle of the bear market after 100 drill holes. And I wanted to find something bigger that could make the world scene. My team and I did, and Sombrero met that, as does Tier 1 Silver, as does Fury with some of their projects. But it had a probability factor and a challenge in front of it that I was comfortable with, which was gaining social access, which we just gained in November, late November of last year. And so now, after 8 years of waiting on this opportunity, it's finally going to come to fruition where we should be able to drill it here in the next few months and go and see if we have that, the next one of the top 10 copper gold deposits in the world. That's what it looks like.
Are you funded?
We're funded today, but we're going to need a bit more capital to pay for our drilling, but we're not going to raise that until we have the drill permits. Yeah. We'll re-rate the company and we'll crystallize the $30 million spent to date and the 8 years of time it took to get here. Now, in a time where copper is really rare, and I'm going to say shortage of high quality, high grade copper opportunities, everything I'm talking about is from surface, it's open pit, and it's extremely good grades. And so I think once we re-enter this to the financial markets, there will be a pretty significant interest being part of something this rare and this big. Time's been spent, the work's been done, and we recently added the former head of exploration for BHP has joined our board as of Thursday, a few days ago, and he's a new investor in the company. And if that's not a great validation of the opportunity, I don't really know what is. But I think there's both corporate potential partners in the next raise as well as institutional and high net worth investors that could really do it. But right now we're marketing for about a month and a half, and we'll look to come to market in sometime in March or April of this year.
Ivan, remind me again, the project is located in
Southern Peru.
Southern Peru. What is the community like around the mine right now? Do you have social license there?
Yeah, so community, there's 3 communities, but one in particular, main one that affects it. What we did was we brought in about $500,000 of agricultural programs where we modeled these programs, we sponsor them, and we got grants from the government to carry them forward. We brought French cows, Australian lambs, fish farms into the Andes, which is lacking nutrition and iron specifically, so we were very helpful that way. The community has invested into these programs alongside us, which makes them sustainable. And now we're about to offer the first jobs in 3 years. As of February 1st, we'll be back to work, which is great. And so the community is amazing. There's always politics involved in different regions of Peru that you have to get through. Our biggest advancements have happened in the last 12 months, and we're seeing not just from the social acceptance and the strength and support of the communities, which we've been in for 8 years, but we're also seeing pathway to get permits improving in Peru. Big change as of December was you can apply for your water permit now the same time as you apply for your drill permit versus doing it in sequence before, which would have added another 2 months or longer afterwards. So the government's being very responsive to the sector from the aspect of getting permits and advancing these exploration projects that are low impact. But we're very proud of what we've done. It's called AgroDías. That's the community agricultural programs. I believe we're the first to have done it in South America, and we're one of the leading people who have done it. And whether we find a mine or not, this community is going to benefit for many years to come, and that's very important to us.
Lastly, Ivan, the steps over the next 12 months.
The steps are all going to happen in the next 60 to 90 days. The big step is getting the final drill permit, which we're pursuing right now, listing the company and drilling. And this should all happen within the next 60 days. And then we will drill for the next, hopefully 2-3 years with discoveries that we can go after. So that's our story.
Ivan, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
My name is Michael McCrae here at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference on behalf of Kitco Mining.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference is brought to you by Snowline Gold.